What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of B is for Build. Today is a really exciting day for me because like about 6 or 7 months ago I came up with a really crazy idea. I came up with a build idea that I just thought would like push the envelope as far as my abilities. I thought it would push our creativity, and I knew that we'd learn a lot of stuff to do it, but it was going to be extremely expensive. Today I finally get to share with you guys that idea, that concept. I get to share with you guys the car that we're starting with, and I get to unveil our plan for our 2019 SEMA build. So stay tuned. So our donor car starts here in Rancho Cordova at Exotic Auto Recycling. I scoped this car out many months ago, and I actually showed you guys it before on the channel as well. Is it this one? No, it's not that one. Maserati? No. Fake Supra? No. Is the channel taking a turn for the off-road? No, in all seriousness, these guys have an insane selection of different cars that we could use to be the basis of any insane build, but there's only one that is gonna work for this build. and here it is. I shouldn't be laughing, it's so expensive. So I know what all you guys are probably thinking. I've A, lost my mind, or B, hung out with Tavares for too long, shopping for toasty cars, and probably C, you're like, wait, Chris, you already have one of these. Yes, we do, but we're gonna make this one so much better. And we're gonna use the green one to be able to do that. Now this car that you're looking at right here, what's left of it is a Huracan LP610-4. So it is the hardtop 4-wheel drive version of what I had. And it had a turbocharged kit on here that had a fuel pressure regulator failure that eventually caused a fire and burnt down the entire car. Hey, the CCU might be good. Don't throw that away. Both you guys, the viewers and the commenters, and myself both wanted a more in-depth build. You guys wanted to see something that was a long-term project, not just a simple crash repair, but something that touches different areas of automotive, auto body, engine, interior, exterior, something that like the Datsun project, where we have a lot of pride in the work that went into it, and in the end we end with a build that is completely unique. And that is exactly what this build is going to be. This is a Huracan that is going to have 1,000 horsepower. This is a Huracan that's going to cost less than half the cost of the cheapest Huracan out there. And this is a Huracan that's also being designed by Kaisel Salim, and it is going to look absolutely insane. And the best part is we get to build almost every single piece of it. So in today's episode I'm going to explain exactly how all of that's going to be done, but first let's help pull this engine out, or at least watch. All right, the engine is out of here. So this is looking a little bit more like what we're paying for. You guys can just, leave a comment below of what engine you think we're gonna put in here, but we're gonna do twin turbo configuration at 1,000 horsepower. There's your hints. That drive shaft is gonna go. We're gonna stay rear wheel drive, and then what the guys here are going to be working on tomorrow is taking off some of this front end section, because yeah, we didn't exactly pay for all of this either. But the cool thing is we are keeping all the HVAC, ABS, brake booster, all that stuff. So if we can work a little wiring magic, we're going to be able to keep all of those things, which would be really cool. All right, so fast forward a little bit, I'm back at the hotel. What we just looked at was Steve remove the engine and the transmission out of the back of the Huracan, and that's gone. That's not ours, we're not paying for that. So what we're doing here, and why we're working with Exotic Auto Recycling, is giving us the opportunity to take every single thing off of this car that we don't need, so we're not paying for it. So we can just drive the price down as far as possible. So it's kind of the concept behind this build, is I wanna keep it cheap, I wanna keep it on a budget, but I want a lot of goodness, which I'm gonna show you in a second how we're gonna do that. So we're kind of starting with the most bare bones Lamborghini Huracan we possibly can. So let's take a second. We're gonna jump into the computer. I wanna show you guys kind of visually the game plan for this car and how it's gonna be so unique. I mean, I think the build process is gonna be really unique too, but also what we're gonna get in the end is just gonna make it a total one of a kind, one in the world car. So at the most basic level, this is what we're starting with. This is a Huracan chassis right here, but we have interior and we have some suspension components and stuff like that. But what you guys didn't see is the front cut that we have to make. We're gonna lose this entire section of the front end, mainly just to save cost and because I can tube frame a replacement. Somebody else needed to buy this to restore their wrecked front end Huracan, so it brought the price down on the chassis a lot, so we can kiss that goodbye. But the really important thing to mention here is that we're keeping all of our stock suspension mounting points, so we're not gonna have to rebuild or redesign any of that. So all I gotta do is basically do a tube frame version of this front end, and all that is there to do is hold the front end together and protect us in the event of an accident. They're all pretty straight angles, geometrical shapes. It really shouldn't be too hard to build. The next really interesting part of the chassis is the back end. As you guys saw, we had a small problem with fire. It got pretty burnt up in a lot of important spots, so that's got to go as well. But on the positive side, it wasn't very expensive to buy an entire new rear frame for this vehicle. So we got a new one, and we're going to go ahead and bring it in and weld it in. And the top 3 bar sections actually bolt in and bolt out, and we have all of our stubs to bolt into, and we got plenty of leftover undamaged metal from the chassis that we're going to be able to weld into and have a good connection. We actually have the seam where they butt weld their own chassis together still available. So, new rear chassis. So that, plus the suspension components that we bought, once we replace a couple bushings here and there and some new coilovers, we will have a rolling Huracan chassis. We got no body and no engine. So the game plan for the body brings us just straight back to my green Lamborghini. I'm sure that more than a few of you guys thought it was really strange that I would buy, a $100,000 car, more than a $100,000 car, with just a missing door and a small dent in it. The whole reason I bought and fixed the green Lamborghini is for this project. So how do we get a body? We make a body. We're going to make a body out of carbon fiber using my green Lamborghini as the template, as the form. We're going to take each piece off of the green Lamborghini, and one by one we are going to wrap them in carbon fiber, and then once that carbon fiber dries, we will pop it off, preserving the green piece for the Lamborghini so that can go back onto the green Lamborghini and leaving us with one solid new carbon fiber Lamborghini piece for this project. It's going to allow us to build the entire body out of carbon fiber, which is awesome. It allows us to build it on somewhat of a budget. It's not as cheap as fiberglass, but it's a lot cheaper than Lamborghini parts. And it allows us to make all of our modifications right there as we're in the process of building these custom parts. So once we have our rolling chassis, which is, the 2 wheels with the 2 lines together, duh, and we've got all our body panels created out of carbon fiber, we just got to build mounting points for them and line them all up and use a little bit of imagination, and what we should end up with is something that looks a lot like a Huracan. On the interior side of things, we're going to have a secondary screen for the standalone ECU. Damn, that is some top level photoshopping right there. And then the coolest part about this interior is we got to make room for another pedal. And we can get rid of all this electronic shifting crap and make room for a good old-fashioned shift knob. This is embarrassingly bad Photoshop, but you get the idea. I'm just trying to show you. The idea is that we're building what I believe is the first manual Huracan in the entire world. So how are we going to do that? That leads us to the engine transmission combo. The Huracan engine is fantastic, don't get me wrong. It sounds phenomenal. It's very well engineered, and they're pretty reliable. But the problem is the path to upgrades is so expensive. And most of the time when people are pushing these engines to the level where we're going, about 1,000 horsepower, they're investing over $100,000. We're not gonna do it that way. We are gonna do it on the cheap American method, V8 power. That's right, we are finally going to LS swap a build. We are partnering with Texas Speed on this build actually, and we're gonna build an awesome engine that is capable of 1,000 horsepower and above. And of course, to get us to that horsepower number, we're gonna need some turbos. So we have partnered with Garrett, and we're gonna run dual Garrett turbos, and we're gonna custom fabricate the entire turbo system so it looks really badass, and it'll get us to that high horsepower mark. We've also partnered up with Works on the fuel system, so they're going to be running our fuel pumps and our injectors. And then we've got Haltech behind us partnering with us as well to run the whole standalone system. So we've got a lot of really, really good companies on board helping us out with this build. So I know at this point a lot of you more technical guys are thinking, yeah, that's all fine and dandy. Anybody can put an LS in the back of a Huracan, but how in the hell are you going to actually put power to the wheels? And that is where the coolest piece of this puzzle comes together. That is the Graziano transmission. So Graziano is known for making the Lamborghini Gallardo transmission, which in the E-gear configuration is absolute garbage, but in the manual configuration, which is very hard to find, is really, really good. I managed to find the Graziano transmission brand new with all the manual fixings going all the way up to the shifter itself and the special bell housing and mounting adapters that can mount the Graziano to the back of an LS. And I found this entire package for pretty cheap, so I bought that right away. I actually bought it months before I even bought the Huracan that I bought today. So I hope that pretty well explains the build concept and the build plan and how I plan on getting there, and as well as goes all the way back to explaining why we got the green Huracan in the first place, and might shine a little light on why we've done so many ad spots in the last few months, because I've basically had to spend over $200,000 to be able to build this budget Lamborghini. Cost $200K to build a $60,000, $70,000 Lambo. But when we pull this off, it will be one of the most insane Huracans in the world, and it'll honestly just be like a dream car build of mine come true. The first B is for Build Q&A we ever did. Somebody asked me what my like dream supercar would be, and I said this. I'd love to maybe engine swap a Ferrari. I've been thinking about that. You know, put a crate motor in a Ferrari or something to be able to have it as a daily. And fast forward a couple years later, and you know, we're doing it with a cooler base car, but it's the same kind of concept. I'm so stoked. And as I mentioned before, this is a build for SEMA to show what we can do, just like what we did with the Datsun before. We have, I think, a little over 5 months to get it done, so we have a smaller time frame than what we had with the Datsun. But we also have our booth already picked out. We're going to be at the Motul booth. They're another partner of ours for this. They're going to be providing all the oil, all the different fluids that we need for the build. So you guys can see it at the Motul booth in the 2019 SEMA show. But we're also going to get this thing on the drag strip. Guaranteed. It's gotta run 9s. I don't know how it wouldn't with the amount of horsepower that we're gonna throw at it, but that's definitely happening. It's getting late, so I'm gonna get to sleep, but first thing tomorrow morning we're gonna head back to Exotic Auto Recycling. All the cuts should be made now on the vehicle, so we'll be able to see exactly what we're getting, and maybe go shopping for some extra parts while we're there. All right, so we're back at Exotic Auto. You can kind of see the writing on the ground, and we're taking a look at some of the stuff that we have that's not included inside the chassis right now. It's all laid out in front of us. So this is a lot of the different backing boards that we have for the interior to kind of piece back together the interior, and then no idea what that stuff is. Again, more trim stuff here. Body control modules, different stuff like that. That's all extra wiring harness. What I did was I spent a little bit of extra money and bought enough harness to make sure that we could replace the entire harness from the midway through the car all the way back to the whole engine harness. Even though we don't have the stock engine, sometimes it's good to have. Apologize for the cutting. They're working on getting the front end off. It's the airlift system. There's some busted up axles. This right here is all the connecting pieces for our rear frame, wiring harness, heat shields, center console stuff right there. Those are the rear door things, the door striker covers basically, and then a bunch more interior stuff like that, like the dash and the dash cluster and all that stuff. Coming over here, this is our replacement rear frame. So we actually have like a lot more of this still alive on ours. You can see where they weld in from factory. This is where they have a welded seam, and then these weld in right here. We still have these on ours. So we're gonna have plenty of stuff that we're gonna be able to connect up with and weld into on ours. So basically, this is a weld-in piece, this is a weld-in piece, and then everything else, there are 2 more levels of pieces that are bolt-in pieces. And those are our engine mounts. The real reason we bought the trailer. Yeah, we gotta get this hunk of gold back home. So I wanted to show you, this is the work that they just wrapped up on the front section. So you can see our front controller mounting point is here and here. Everything in front of that has been cut off. So we got some triangulated pieces right here and here that we're gonna continue to weld onto and build this box and build it out. We took measurements, so we know exactly how far to come out, and then we'll build another replacement front impact bar here. So we basically are tube framing the front end because it saved us like over 10,000 bucks. So now we're boxing everything up, gonna get everything in a couple boxes and get it inside the cabin of the Huracan so we can get it on the road. We are all loaded up, tarped up. We are going to encounter some rain, and we got the rear frame on here nice and strong. Lambo 1, Lambo 2, I think we should call it Lambo. This is Lambo 1, Lambo 2. We're ready to hit the road. 600-mile road trip back home. That is one of my new life favorite driving moments. Driving the Lambo through this massive lightning storm. It was so cool. Look at that. All right guys, we've made it home. The trailer and the load made it all here safe in one piece. We didn't have too much rain or anything on the way. And we just added another tarp last night. We're here. Build starts now. I'm so excited. So we've got 5 months to build a crazy car. Now, those of you that have watched the Datsun build know that we've done this before, but this build has, in my opinion, a lot more unknowns. We've never worked with a lot of these things before, and it's gonna be very exciting, but I'll tell you, I am about 5 times more nervous starting this project now, knowing what we have on the line, than I was with the Datsun. So, fingers crossed. And finally, before I go, there's 2 things I really just want to mention very quickly. One of them is I've seen a lot of comments and people saying, Chris, it's very hard to relate with you working on a Lamborghini or these supercar things. And I totally understand that. But I do want to point out that this is no longer really a supercar thing. You could replicate this process on absolutely anything. If you wanted to build a badass Corvette, you could buy a shell, do the same thing that we're doing. It'd be even easier because it comes with an LS. But you could do this on any busted up, burnt down Ferrari, Lamborghini, or anything even further down the line. So this is a process that doesn't really apply to Lamborghini. The only thing that we're gonna have that's gonna be left of Lamborghini on here is the suspension and the electronics, basically. So I hope that you guys like the DIY angle that we're taking at this thing, and the price point for this build, this will land cheaper than a new GTR, cheaper, I'm trying to make it land cheaper than a new Z06 Corvette, and obviously with like a lot more power, almost double the power of both of those builds. So I think that if we can pull that off, the looks of a Lamborghini and the horsepower of either of those, double the horsepower pretty much of those things, that's a pretty good place. And finally, I just want to say thank you guys so much for all the support and being so cool with all of the advertisers that we've had and everything leading up to this point. I just want to say thank you guys so much, because without you guys watching, without you guys tuning in, this wouldn't be possible. So I think this is going to be an amazing build series, and it's going to be pushing our limits in every single direction. So I hope you guys want to subscribe and watch and join us on this journey. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace! Come on.